I probably don't need to introduce her, but I just wanted to just do a little backstory between she and I. Vivian and I met, if mine serves, which it doesn't very well. We met at a Pampered Chef party, oh gosh, I want to say 30 some odd years ago. And we were introduced because our names were both Vivian. So the lady that was having us said, "You need to meet this other lady. Her name is Vivian." So that's where we met, and she may not remember that. But anyway, and then of course at church, the weirdest things happen at church, and we're always paired. If they ask you to get in a group, or you're saying numbers, so you'll all be in separate, groups, we always end up in the same group. We're in choir together, we're in session together, we're always going to the Presbyterian meetings together, and the women's retreat and the Bible study and conference, we're always together. So anyway, we have a long history, the Vivians. And John calls us Vivi 1 and Vivi 2. We don't know, I don't know which is which. Everybody said Vivian, and I'm just, no, the other one. Anyway, but without further ado. So I'll put this down here. I might need it later. I'm not sure I'll get through without a few sniffles. So, hello. Thank you for being here. I'm Vivian Jones. Vivi 1 or 2, whichever. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming to hear my humble words. Of course, I've been asking myself, since I agreed to do this, I've been saying, what were you thinking? When you agreed to a wisdom talk, there's none there. So I've been just telling myself, this is improv. So it's not going to be funny, but anyway, it's not really, it's wisdom, but I don't want to think of it like that. That's a high hurdle. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself first, and then I'll share some of my wisdom.
I was born in Memphis. I was born and raised in Memphis. I lived there until I graduated from college. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, so there were 5 of us, and we were a mess. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me, and I have a twin sister, and we are the youngest too. Yeah, I have a twin. Her name's Carol. She lives in Memphis. We don't really look alike very much. We're fraternal, so it's not that interesting. So my brothers were Richard and Scott, and they were the oldest 2. And then my older sister Lydia, and then me and Carol. Carol and I. Ooh, should I say Carol and I or me and Carol? I don't know. We grew up. Carol and I did. We grew up in the Whitehaven Presbyterian Church in Memphis, and we were the 4th generation of my mother's family to attend there. Even my family were in that church before it was Whitehaven. It was previously had been called Pigeon Roost and was in a different place. So my Raines family were in that church for 4 generations. My parents were Richard, who everybody called him Dick, and Lydia. So my sister Lydia was the 4th generation Lydia, and she was the last one, so that was kind of sad. But anyway, Dick and Lydia, and they met in a young adult group at 2nd Presbyterian Church in the early 50s. They were married at Whitehaven Presbyterian, because that's where my mother was from. And they lived in East Memphis for about 10 years until Carol and I were born. And then the family moved to Whitehaven, and we rejoined Whitehaven Presbyterian. And so that's where I grew up. And Carol and I, let's see. So anyway, I'm a cradle Presbyterian. That was the point of that. It seemed like we were always at church. We did a lot, did everything. But there were times when we weren't there. And I'm not really sure why that was. You know, we just stepped away from being so involved, the family itself. Sometimes I think it's because getting 5 kids up and going for church on Sunday morning was a monumental task. Yeah, we were not always very agreeable. So that was that. And Carol and I did all the things. We did Sunday school, vacation Bible school, youth group, choir, everything. Everything. And my mom took us to everything. Took us and picked us up. So Carol is more social than me. I'm kind of quiet, y'all know. But she's very social, so that was our difference. Often I was just a tag along with her. But that was okay. I made my way in the world. But we had great examples of faith and living a godly life through all that. Lots of people. I mean, I had great aunts in that church who taught Sunday school and, helped take care of us, and they were great examples, and my parents were great examples, and really, anyway, we had great examples of living a godly life. But really, I never thought I'd be standing up here giving a wisdom talk, but here I am. So I just picked out a few formative things to tell you about me. So I started school in 1970 in Memphis. So I was in school during desegregation in Memphis City schools. We mostly went to public schools, and so I was in the middle of desegregation. And it was a really ugly time in Memphis. I remember it was in 3rd grade that it all came down. We were at one school before Christmas, and after school, we were sent to another. We were bused to another school. So that was very disruptive for a person like me who doesn't like change. Very scary. But I claim my education in Memphis Public Schools as a strength, as a gift to me. I don't know. It was a gift to me to be able to be educated in a diverse community with a lot of people who didn't look like me. But we had so many similarities, and we all learned the same way. So that was third grade. We changed schools. I don't really think we understood the implications of everything that was going on, but it was scary for us. We spent 2 years in the new school. I guess we didn't really. We spent the rest of third grade and then fourth grade, because they made the schools 2 grades at a time. So then after fourth grade, we were going to be switched to a 5th and 6th grade school. But my parents and grandparents decided we possibly were not getting the best education we could. So we were put into a private school at our church, at Whitehaven Presbyterian. We were sent there for 5th and 6th grade to get a better education. But we traded racial differences for socioeconomic differences because we didn't have a lot of money. We were scholarship kids in a private school where all those children had gone to school together for a long time. So it was hard to fit in for me. I think Carol fit in pretty good. But I was not so included in everything. But it was okay. We did get a good education. And so after 6th grade, we returned to public schools, junior high and senior high. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But again, I claim my years in public schools as a strength and a gift. So that's that. Now, also during the early 70s, so this was when I was in grade school, my father was unemployed. We went through the oil embargo and all kinds of stuff, and my dad was in his 50s, and he was unemployed. So we were pretty poor. We had I remember having food stamps and WIC for my mom to feed her kids. So that was a hard thing for my family, for my parents. Our church family helped us also. And, sought to, I remember people bringing us bags of groceries. So, that was a formative time because it determined my relationship with money and the need to strive for more, to be independent. So I was determined to have enough money, which to me meant getting a good job for a girl. So to get a good job, I thought I had to be smart. So I worked really hard in junior high and senior high, which I had not done in elementary school. I don't remember caring about grades in elementary school. I don't know. I was never on honor roll in elementary school, I can tell you that. But Carol was. She got sent to a special honors program, and I was very jealous. So I don't know if I was really smart in elementary school, but sometime at the end of 6th grade, something clicked in me, and I was like, I got to make A's. I got to know everything. So junior high and senior high, I was an honor student and all that stuff. And I was determined to go to college and get a good job. So I graduated valedictorian of my high school. I attended. That was the height of my life, and I but sometimes I think, I really thought I was set, valedictorian, I'm set. No, not really. But I did get a scholarship to college, and I went to college without any debt. 4 years, kept my scholarship all 4 years, which was pretty rare. And I got my bachelor's degree in mathematics, and then I went on and also got a master's degree in economics. All paid for. But not very useful, let me just say. Let me just say, those things were not useful. Even with all that education, getting a job was not easy. I was in Jackson by then. And jobs were pretty hard to come by. This would have been the early 90s. So it was hard. It was kind of hard to find a job. And nobody knew what to do with a girl who was mathematics and economics. Nobody knew what that meant. But I would just always say, I'm good with numbers, I'm really smart, I can learn. I'm willing to learn. Tell me what to do. So I eventually got a job with the help of someone from this church who worked at Martha White Foods. And I had interviewed with him, but he couldn't hire me because, well, I was married to my first husband who worked for Procter & Gamble. And it was viewed as a conflict of interest for me to work for Martha White. So he couldn't hire, he wanted to hire me, but he couldn't. So that was disappointing because I really wanted that job. But later, when my first marriage ended and I had been looking for a job for a while, I put on my big girl pants one night and I called he and his wife. I knew they both worked, and so I just called and I said, hey, I just want y'all to know I'm looking for a job. I don't want you to give me a job, but if you hear of something, just let me know. Just please let me know. Keep your ears open. And so in a couple of days, he called me and he said, I have a job for you if you want it. And he said, when can you start? And I said, well, I can start today. And I did. I went, they were looking. The guy who had the job I was going to take was leaving, and he was going to be there for like one more day. And so I went in that night, and he showed me around and talked to me about what he did. And then the next day I showed up and I started learning manufacturing planning, which was, I had no skills there, but it's a number game and a planning game. I can do both of those. So that's how I ended up working, and I did that work for 30 years. And I really enjoyed it. I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. Where am I on my list here? Got my good job, started working, and I was, yeah, that's what I did. I have a question now. It says, talk about this, question mark? So I'm going to back up just a little. When I was a junior in high school, I was sitting in Algebra 2 class, Honors Algebra 2 class, and the counselor came in, and she said, we need somebody to apply for this summer program to go to a prep school in New England. And there was this group in Memphis, and they sent public school kids to prep school, summer school in New England at 4 or 5 different prep schools. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I raised my hand. I said, me, I want to do that. And I got the scholarship, and I spent that summer, 8 weeks of that summer, at a prep school in Northfield, Massachusetts, which is way far away. And that was the longest I'd ever been away from my family. It was the longest I'd ever been out of Tennessee. I'd really never been out of the South at that time. I'd been to, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas maybe Kentucky. So anyway, I got on a plane with some other kids, and it turned out a friend of mine from when I was in elementary school was going too. And we went to the same school. So that was a really important time for me because I was on my own for the first time, and I was with a lot of interesting people. And I took expository writing and bicycling and maybe computer programming, I don't know. The bicycling was the best because we were in a tri-state area. We could go northeast and be in Vermont, northwest and be in New Hampshire, I think. We rode our bikes all over. And so that was just an important part of my life, and it really taught me that I could do hard things by myself. So I came back and, went to my senior year, did all that stuff, and was valedictorian. And for my valedictory speech, I used a poem called Desiderata, which means things desired in Latin. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'm just going to tell you the things that stick with me from this poem. I liked this poem because my mother's childhood friend had it in their cabin, had it on the wall in the cabin, and every time we would go visit them at the cabin, I would see this and I really liked it. And so this friend had a special place in my heart. And anyway, I used it when I taught to my graduating class. So the things I have marked is speak truth quietly, and speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have a story. One thing. I always remember this passage as don't compare yourself to others, but it says, if you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. So I remember that as don't compare yourself to others. So I try really hard not to do that. Then be yourself, which is along the same lines as that. This particular passage is really meaningful to me now, in this season of my life. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with imaginings. So that's meaningful for me now, to let go of things, take on new things. Be gentle with yourself. That's a hard thing sometimes. Be at peace with God. Keep peace with your soul. And with all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be careful and strive to be happy. So it was a whole page, but I only read you part of it. So those are all kind of philosophical things that I hold dear to my heart. So I already told you that my father, yes, I talked about those two things. I skipped that. So after college, back to here, I moved to Jackson with my first husband. We moved here for him to start his career with Procter & Gamble, and we were married 5 years. I don't have much to say about that, except that we joined First Presbyterian Church toward the end of our marriage, and that was providential. God was putting me in a supportive community to survive and thrive. After my divorce, I was determined to stay here. I was not going to run home. And so here I am today. This congregation helped me in so many ways with love and kindness. I already told you I started my career in manufacturing planning because a member of this congregation hired me and mentored me. And I don't know how many people suggested to Randy Jones that he asked me out. There were quite a few matchmakers working on us, and well, here we are 32 years and still standing. This congregation really showed up for us, and we hope to return that loving support as we walk along this journey with you, and you continue to show up for us. So thank you. So, be the person God calls you to be. That's my first wisdom. I was always a quiet, reflective person, a good listener, but not good at chit-chat, not so good in a crowd. I spent a few years of my life trying to be a different person, trying to be more talkative, more likable, more popular, more like my idea of other people, my idea of everyone else. So that was during college and my first marriage. When I reflect on those years, I regret my attempts to be less myself. It was exhausting first. It led to anxiety, depression, and relationships that were doomed to fail. When I could no longer maintain the new me, my first marriage ended, and I realized that I just needed to be me. That sounds so simple, but was so complicated. Who was I? I had to figure that out. And I started with my faith. I was already attending First Pres, and everyone was kind and supportive without even knowing my quest. I immersed myself in anything I could in the church: worship, Sunday school, Presbyterian women, building real relationships with you. More importantly, I established a real relationship with God. That was the first step to the real me. God made me to be me, a unique creation with an important purpose, a listener, a friend, a faithful leader, quiet but not silent, powerful and loving, called by I am to be just me. That's the first thing. Now, a few years ago, God and I had a little discussion. I had said no too many times, and I promised to say yes when He came calling. And so that's what I try to do. It's not always what I want to do, but nothing is about, but everything is not about me anymore. Nothing is about me, really. So that is liberating and empowering, realizing that it's not all about you. Randy and I have been retired for about 15 months, and we talked about it for a long time, and we, I counted all our pennies for a long time for us to work out, and Randy actually retired twice. His second job, he was just waiting on me to decide it was time. And I finally decided it was time, and we did it. And we love it. We love retirement. Being retired makes it a lot easier to say yes to God things. We say yes to volunteering. We both like it. We help at RIFA with Snack Backpack and in the soup kitchen, and we're on their call list. They can call us anytime. They just need us to show up, and we'll be there. We can be there in 10 minutes. We did that yesterday when I was supposed to be working on this talk. But yeah, So they called and I said, well, yeah, we can come. And so we went down and then we came home and I was going to work on it again. But I procrastinated. And I procrastinated yesterday and did not work on it. So my mind worked on it all night. I feel a nap in my future. But I did work on it this morning. So, yeah. We help with all kinds of things. We also do some stuff around the church, just a little bit. Whatever we can do. We have fun and just want to help our community be a better place for everyone. Now, speaking of Randy, he is a gift from God to me. He was just what I needed, and I really believe that we are more together than we would ever be apart. We make each other better people. Neither of us are perfect, but we work together to answer God's call for us and to fulfill His purpose for our covenant relationship. I really view our marriage as a covenant between us and God, and that really informs our decisions. So we'll leave that. That's it. So, I told you I was poor when I was young, and that informed my relationship with money. My relationship with money was distorted. I wanted to keep my money for me. That set up a tension with God once I, was grown up and joined the church and I needed to pledge. That was a little hard. Stewardship was a hard sell for me. My faith told me it was important, but my experience made me stingy. Of course, at first I didn't have much to share, which made it harder, but I started small and I learned to give. To my amazement, generosity was transformative. Giving made me feel alive and connected to something bigger than myself. You can't beat that feeling. I wanted to give more and more. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It took a few years. It took years, but it was worth the effort. Stuff is not transformative. Buying a new purse, new shoes, whatever, is not transformative. But generosity is. So I make a choice to have less so that I am able to give more. And I posted that on Facebook. After I was watching, I don't know what I saw, but some of my friends were posting all the stuff they have. And I was very frustrated by that because I wanted to hear more about giving and supporting others. So that I posted that. I choose to have less so that I'm able to give more. That's another one of my wisdoms. Now, this last little part is going to be hard. Loss is not forever. Randy and I have had a few losses over the last few years. And I'm not going to detail all that because I won't make it. But I want to tell you that our losses won't be forever. We have the hope of the resurrected Christ. We will see our loved ones again. We cling to that hope. And even though we have hard days, we keep stepping out in faith and love, embracing our purpose each day. That is God's will for us. God's love and grace are forever, and that is my truth. Grace and peace to you all. Oh, look at that.
Swag.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to love that word. Have more give, have less, you can give them. Can't say it right, but I'm gonna remember it. Anyway, this is just a remembrance of your talk here with us today.
You can wear that fishing. Fishing.
Oh, yes, that could be my fishing shirt. I didn't even talk about fishing.
I do have a few of those.
Oh, no, I don't have
You don't have any? Well, thank you guys for coming, and I hope you'll be here next month for when Mary speaks on November 20th, so just remember that. Mary Bearden is going to be our speaker next time. So Mary, raise your hand. Anyway, but thank y'all and have a wonderful day and be safe.